Hello and welcome to the Plastek Academy. I'm Dennis Prishak, President and CEO of the Plastek Group. Thank you for attending our Plastek Academy series webinars, connecting you with leading expert suppliers to the plastics industry. Today's webinar features KW Plastics, one of the world's largest plastics recyclers and one of the early secondary recyclers of polyethylene and polypropylene in the U.S. With consumer and customer demand growing for these and other post-consumer resins, the need for initiatives to encourage, educate, and improve recycling habits and create a circular economy is critical. Because of KW's long history in recycling and PCR, Plastek has been a strong supporter and significant user of their resins for several years. And because of this, we consider them a vital partner in our global commitment to environmental sustainability. Throughout our relationship, Plastek has worked closely and extensively with KW's experts, and together we've solved numerous technical and processing challenges. We've developed extensive testing protocols and quality specifications related to color matching, melt flow, and other characteristics important to our products. I can honestly say they perform well for us and are very much focused on the customer. In today's webinar, KW's experts will take you into more detail and explain why they are a leader in PCR and how they can help you achieve your sustainability goals. With that, I'd like to thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation and happy learning.
Welcome to the Plastek Academy and also KW Plastics Recycling Perspectives on High-Density Polyethylene and Polypropylene Post-Consumer Resins. Hello, my name is Pedro Morales and I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing for KW. We thank you for your time, we thank you for your interest, and thanks for joining the webinar. KW is the largest recycler of high-density polyethylene and polypropylene in the world. And as such, we also operate as a resin company, being able to provide you with comparable resins, technical support, and commercial services that you would expect from the virgin resin industry. My portion of the presentation is to provide you with two perspectives. First of all, the definition of PCR, and also to share with you some of the benefits of using PCR. Next. This slide contains a definition of PIR, post-industrial resin, and post-consumer resin. We as KW focus on the right-hand side of this slide, and that's what we provide to industry. Take a moment to point out what is PIR or a post-industrial resin. You can read that. Well, I'll give you an example. A great example would be that the Plastek Group produces a very large number of pink closures. The customer sees this, and all of a sudden, they advise Plastek that they want it to be redder. At that point, Plastek Group may grind all those parts up, blend it up with the right color, and inject again into another part that is red enough. So in this case, the material has been reworked from scrap that has been rejected and put back into that part. Now, on the right-hand side, the post-consumer resin, what we have here is a resin that is being produced from a consumer part whose useful life has expired, then collected in a system, diverted from the landfill, returned to a recycler like us, and if you would, recycle into a resin that the Plastek Group could utilize. A great visual example of this is this Yoplait container that was picked out by our operations team in our yard. You see this wonderful, glamorous piece of trash. Well, it's polypropylene. After we get through with it and put it into a resin, a post-consumer resin, we deliver it with a tremendous amount of technical pedigree, if you would, to the plastic group, and they in turn can make it into a deodorant stick and various components. So this is PCR, and this is what KW focuses its energy and resources to get to you. Next, please. There are many benefits to using PCR. The one that is most evident to me and my family is I can't tell you the number of times that we've been driving around North America, and for that matter, internationally, and all of a sudden you see a mountain of, if you would, trash. Think about all the valuable materials that we just throw out and not recycle. In our case, the plastic in these mountains of trash are very valuable, and we can utilize them. So reduction in waste and contributing to the circular economy is something that could be very valuable and beneficial to all of us. Another benefit that we like to share with you is the fact that PCRs have a lower environmental impact than the corresponding virgin resins. This was documented in a independent study entitled The Life Cycle Analysis of PET, HDPE, and Polypropylene. This was conducted by the Franklin Associates, an independent firm, and it was commissioned by the Association of Plastic Recyclers. This is a very thorough and technical review of the life cycle of these polymers. And please note that in just about every aspect that was reviewed, PCRs have notable benefits over their virgin counterparts. If we just look at this spreadsheet, if you would, this summary table, please look at the first row entitled Total Energy. And for example, go across the right side where it says recycled polypropylene as a column. If you look down, you will find that polypropylene PCR, for example, consumes 12% of the energy of virgin resin. Conversely, what it's saying here is polypropylene PCR uses 88% less energy. Now, as I said, this is a very technical and thorough document. You may want to look at it. Go to the APR, the Association of Plastic Recyclers website, and they can take you through it. Another thing that we want to point out, APR is an extremely dynamic and fast-growing organization that deals with recycling. In this organization, brand owners, recyclers, regulatory people, legal people, additives suppliers, machinery suppliers have a forum, and it is something worth joining if you're not a part of today. At this point in time, my portion of the presentation is completed, and I'd like to introduce you to our General Manager, Scott Saunders. Scott?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'd like to thank Dennis Precek and his team at Plastek for hosting this webinar and allowing our team the chance to introduce our company to a wide audience. I'm going to make a couple of points today about some of the challenges and opportunities that we see in PCR, some of the roles that we see for the brand owner, speak a little bit about how we partner with suppliers, and a little bit about the capacity expansions that KW has put in place to meet some of the growing demand that has come upon us recently. So the first challenge that we've seen in the last couple of years is a very rapid expansion in demand as a result of some brand owner commitment that was announced late 2019, early 2020. It created a pretty rapid buildup and stressed really the complete supply chain from bale acquisition to processing to delivering resin to customers. Another change we saw was a rapid demand as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, where A lot of people transition from working from the office to staying home. Well, now they're washing clothes more often, they're cleaning the home more often. So we saw a big increase in demand for bleach bottles and cleaner bottles. A lot of these items are things that KW supplies to the marketplace. Another challenge that we're currently facing is a shifting demand from PCR away from traditional streams such as industrial applications to more packaging applications. KW, like the other PCR suppliers, was very adequate and very good at making a mechanical material that performed well, that did a good job for the application. What we had to learn was the aesthetic properties that are needed for packaging. And that's something new for us in the industry that we work with the Plastek team over time to develop and to really dial in the aesthetic qualities that they needed along with the mechanical properties to make good products. Another challenge that our industry has faced over the last couple of years is a lot of bad press from the Wall Street Journal to National Public Radio to the Guardian. There's some reporters that believe that recycling is not the way to go, that it is a waste of time and money. And we always respond back that, you know, we're not the perfect solution. We're not 100% of the solution, but we are a big part of the solution. And it makes no sense to take a valuable commodity that can be recycled and returned back into the packaging industry to simply landfill it. Even though we don't have a solution for every plastic item is out there, we have a solution for a large amount of material that's out there. The PET bottles, the natural high density bottles, the mixed colored high density bottles, a laundry detergent, and the polypropylene containers all have typically more demand for that resin than supply. Another challenge that we're seeing are new and expanded EPR laws, extended producer responsibility. That really originated in Europe and spurred some of the brand owner commitment that we're seeing as of late. We're seeing that now move to the United States. Really nothing passed yet, but there are bills talked about in the individual states and nationally for extended producer responsibility. That could really put a lot of challenges to the marketplace. So we'll continue to work that and see what happens. Our next item I want to talk about are the key roles for the brand owner. So up until 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, all of our initiatives to launch resin was handled through the molder. We really did not have a relationship at the brand owner level. Today, as brand owners have made worldwide commitments for inclusion of PCR, we see many of them that want to control the flow of material, they want to secure the material for themselves, and that is new. And so their desire for PCR is driving some of this, or really all of this new demand for the resin. So we see this role within is to continue to try to develop packaging that will accept the existing PCR. Everyone wants to buy natural. Everybody wants to buy the mechanical properties that they're used to, but nobody makes a natural container. So milk bottles for high density are the only natural container, and that is supplied into a variety of colors for personal care and laundry detergent. On the PET side, clear PET for carbonated soft drinks and water is the only natural container, and you use that to support clothing and to support fiber and all the other applications for PET. So it's critical that the brand owner really take a look at what they can do to incorporate some of the other PCRs that are made from the mixed colored resins. So we understand that there are sometimes century-long commitments to a particular color, a Downy blue or a Coca-Cola red or a Ford blue, that a brand owner is not interested in changing. But as they change and evolve their package, that creates opportunities to slightly change a color or slightly make a package innovation that will allow the inclusion of some of these mixed color PCRs, which are much more cost effective and much more readily available than simply focusing on the natural material. Another point that I'd like to make is to talk about KW's partnerships with its suppliers. We have a very long history with the generators of material, the people that operate MRFs, material recovery facilities. Typically, they're waste haulers that pick your trash up at your on your curb. They also pick up your recyclables. They bring those items in, separate them into the various commodity types, and sell them on the open market. We have decades-long relationships with these companies, and we work very closely with them to develop new sources of materials, as we did with waste management for polypropylene. That item was not recycled before 2012. And we started working with them with a couple of target MRFs to see what we could do as propylene containers evolved away from PVC to propylene for yogurt. And with that, I'd like for you to look at this video that was put together by Waste Management, describing how we worked together with them to develop this polypropylene recycling. I think we're ready. Okay, that was just you know, a great example of how we worked with Waste to develop this propylene stream, and now we see a lot of other material recovery facilities have taken on the items. We have about 60 people now selling us these containers. We're very excited about the continued growth as we all come out of COVID and get back to normal life. The last thing I want to touch on is KW's commitment and investment and equipment that we've done over the last year and a half. We've committed about $25 million for 2020 and 2021 for the expansion of our facility. We have added new silos to store washed flake. We are expanding our building to where we can add new pack out, new packaging, a new boxing station. We've added 3 new extruders. We've added additional melt capacity, melt filter capacity to allow us to finer filter our material at higher production rates. And we're adding 2 new wash lines. If you look at the picture in the bottom left, that is our line 5 that is going in, should be up and in production by July 1st. We're immediately starting line 6 that'll be ready January, February of 2022. Each of these lines will add about 9 to 10 million pounds per month of capacity to our facility. It's going to allow us to be ready when containers are now available to the market. It'll allow us to be able to bring a line down and thoroughly maintain it and switch production from line to line. We typically like to have 18 to 25% extra capacity available for growth. We saw that really taken up quickly as the demand for materials grew so rapidly over the last 18 months. So thank you for participating today. Thank you for allowing me to speak. That concludes my part of the presentation, and I'll now turn it over to Clint Pugh, our sales manager.
Good morning. Thank you, Scott. I'm Clint Pugh, sales manager here at KW Plastics, and we're going to take a quick look at introduction to our company, our core resin guide, some feedstocks and applications, and then just a couple words of encouragement when using PCR. We were established in 1981 and today is the international leader in polyethylene and polypropylene recycling. We have a huge commitment to this industry with over 650 million pounds of capacity and 150 million pounds of silo capacity. We have a 30-year relationship with Ford Motor Company, and we're their first Q1 plastic recycler. We're ISO certified, ISO accredited laboratory, and from a regulatory position, we have just about anything you need, from FDA polyethylene and polypropylene resins to REACH and RoHS, Prop 65, and even UL listed resins. Our sister companies include Wiley Sanders Truck Lines, which is our logistical provider, where we ship and package resin in rail cars, bulk trucks, and gaylords. Our legacy business is Sanders Lead Company, which is the battery recycling division. And then KW Container is an injection molder of plastic paint cans with 4 locations across the US, and is currently our largest polypropylene customer today. List below is at applications and customers that use our resins today. As we look here, it's personal care, household construction, housewares, agricultural business, painting, coatings, and of course, automotive. This is a look at our core resin guide. Again, we focus on high-density polyethylene and polypropylene. On high-density polyethylene, we have one natural resin. It's the top one listed there. And below that, we offer gray and pre-colored black resins ranging in different melt flows from fractional melt to injection molding grades. The top resin, natural, also has an FDA LNO. And as we look at the polypropylene, we start with 10 melt flows and we melt modify and we impact modify to enhance the physical properties of the resin for the different applications we go into. We also have an LNO on a light gray 10 and 20 melt flow resin, as you see there on the top of the polypropylene category. Next. If you were curious what our feedstocks might look like, as Scott mentioned, the top left-hand corner here would be natural milk jugs or tea jugs. And then below that is the natural PCR resin that we converted into and sell that into the open market. To the right is the mixed color version of that, is the pigmented bottles. And when you take all these bottles and during the extrusion process, you melt them down, it yields a gray resin as you see below. These items come from your house and my house all across the country. We purchase them to specification in their original form, pre-sorted, bring them back here in full truckload quantities and convert them into a post-consumer resin for new applications. Next. Here's a look at some applications and markets for high-density polyethylene. We go from blow molded bottles at the bottom to blown film, extrusion, injection molding applications. Again, a very diverse lineup here from specifically the ag business to composite lumber, and then of course the beautiful bottles that at the bottom that you purchase from the stores and consume and put on your shelves at home. Next. This is a look at our FDA market. It consumes personal care applications, hygiene, cosmetics, caps and closures. And specifically, if we look at the top left-hand corner here, is a project that we're very proud of. And we partner with a brand owner and Plastek over the last couple of years to produce that deodorant stick from 100% of our post-consumer resin, and it has been a very successful project for all of us, but wouldn't be possible without the partnership with all of us coming together to work on that. Next. So this is the light gray polypropylene FDA that we were just talking about. I showed this slide in an effort to tell you that for years we've always heard if you had natural or if you had clear polypropylene, we would buy it. And unfortunately, the market just doesn't yield that today. So when you think about PCR, you have to think about what's available in volume that's very consistent and how do I use that into my applications. And here we're starting with a light gray polypropylene that's very consistent again in color, but working with the brand owner, working with the converter, the resin supplier, and even including the color houses, you can achieve variations of color at different loading percentages. And again, the message is just focus on what's available and then how do we partner together to make that successful. Next. All right, lastly, this is a look at one of our largest industrial polypropylene silos here in Troy, Alabama, that holds 30 million pounds of polypropylene. But just a quick message of encouragement. This is a slogan that we've used around here for many years, but you know, it doesn't have to be every SKU when you consider PCR. It doesn't have to be 100%. How about choosing an easy application? Being recyclable is not enough. It's about PCR now. Embrace the challenge, try something new, make a difference, but just start. That's our slogan. That's what we've encouraged a lot of brand owners and converters who were shy about using PCR at first to just start. There's magic in starting. So next up, that's it for me, but we're going to turn it over to Andy Johnson, one of our top sales representatives here at KW Plastics.
Clint, thank you for the introduction. Good morning. Today I'm going to give you an idea of some of the key roles that I play here at KW, making certain that I meet your needs as a customer, your expectations. I'm also going to give you, I thought it'd be helpful to give you some examples of how we provide support from a technical standpoint and a processing standpoint so that we make certain you all are successful. In understanding your needs as a customer, I'm going to have you define your application in depth and make certain that I understand the performance you're expecting of your part. As you saw in a few slides back, our resin, we're really diverse within our resin portfolio, where we're into many different applications. So we feel that understanding the application and knowing that we have resins that are better fit than others, depending on where you're trying to go and your goals. So that's very important. And then understanding, your requirements from a physical property standpoint. What are you targeting for maybe a melt index, or depending on the performance you're looking for out of your part, maybe impact strength is important. So it's very important to me that I understand that in moving towards finding the particular resin that's going to be the best fit for you. And maybe from an aesthetic standpoint, understanding your goals, maybe the color that you're trying to reach. We feel our customers actually have an advantage just simply because of the relationships we have with some of the color houses within the industry. And it's my job to make certain that I open that door for you so that you're able to have success. And then, of course, regulatory requirements. We have many and most all that you would need there. So making sure that I understand what your requirements are from a regulatory standpoint is very important as well. And then after understanding your needs and requirements, I like to go over our resin portfolio in depth and then based on our experience and expertise within our team here, make a suggestion on what we feel is the best fit. And then understanding your expectations from a supply standpoint, how much is needed, maybe pricing expectations. It's my job and our goal to make certain that we bring the most value to you as a customer as possible. And then maybe discuss delivery modes, making certain that you understand what we're capable of with us having our own logistical company and delivering different delivery modes as far as truckload boxes, bulk tanker, or maybe rail cars. And then from a technical standpoint, how we provide support. I've got here an example of one of our technical data sheets. We have one of these on each of our resin that we offer. In particular here, it's our KWR 102-8812, which is an automotive grade that we offer. You can see, we try to give you as much information as possible. You can see the different properties in depth, the different testing methods that we use to determine these properties, the regulatory that we have, and maybe the different performances, automotive approvals, in this case, on this particular resin. And then we also feel our customers have an advantage simply because of our sister company, KW Container. They're injection molding over 100 million pounds of our material every year. We feel and believe that they have some of the better process engineers within our industry, and they're always available for our customers for any questions when processing our PCR. I hope that gives you an idea of a sales representative here and and how we work hard to make certain we allow you all to be successful. At this time, I want to introduce who I believe leads the best customer service team in our industry. Please meet our account manager, Megan Blair.
Thank you for the introduction, Andy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Megan Blair. I serve as account manager here at KW Plastics. As Andy mentioned to you, within that role, I am very much responsible for customer service and very involved. And today I want to take a few minutes of your time to just discuss what I believe are the 4 key elements to account management and customer support services. Those topics will be customer service, supply management, quality, and logistics. Next. So the first thing that we're going to look at today is customer service. Again, not only what that looks like for my role, but for our department, and that is daily communication with our customers, whether that's phone, email, text. A slogan that we like to use here is being readily available, and sometimes that even means after hours. Understanding the needs of our customers, you know, whether that's order patterns, making sure that they understand our lead times, any delivery information that might be important, truly being a liaison between production, quality, shipping, and our logistical departments. An example that we have here is 2 years ago, our international customers came to us and we were not yielding the desired pounds on 40-foot containers for export. We took a hard look at our packaging and redesigned to help them with their needs, and we were able to obtain 10,000 more pounds of resin on each 40-foot container. So it was the pounds desired by the customer, as well as lower freight cost, which was a win for them as well. So again, just understanding that no account is the same, listening to your customers and their needs, and being there for them to support them. Next. So next we'll take a look at supply management. And supply management truly comes into place after you understand your customer and what their needs are. So for my role, something that we are new here doing that has been very important is weekly production meetings. And what that looks like is our production team, shipping teams, and sales teams all come together. We take that time to review production versus customer needs. We review supply, capacity, and capabilities. And all of those puzzle pieces really help customer service when scheduling and coordinating customer shipments and requirements. And again, it can be something as as complex as redesigning packaging, or it could be as simple as a label requirement. Next. So now we'll look at quality, or as we say around here, quality. So I know that, Clint and Andy, I believe, both mentioned that we have invested in a quality management system here. I'm sure you're all familiar with ISO. So our facility is ISO registered and our laboratory is ISO accredited. But we've also taken that a step further, and we've invested in a lot data and inventory management system. And what that system does is it is where lab data is stored, and as lots are produced by our production team, and that system also has the customer resin specifications. So the system is cross-referencing and checking that lot production versus customer resin specifications to make sure that we are shipping quality post-consumer resin that meets our customers' needs. And that lot system is also generating a certificate of analysis. You can find that printed on the back of the bill of lading with every delivery that is received, as well as a system that we have in place that will automatically send that when your order leaves our facility. And that's something that's been a huge benefit to our customers and they've really enjoyed. Next. And the last here of the 4 key elements we've been discussing is logistics. So as the guys mentioned, we service our customers in truckload boxes, bulk tankers, and rail cars. So we in customer service support over 200 delivery locations. You can see on the map, those are from inside the continental United States, Canada, and Mexico. And then there's several international locations that we service as well. As Clint mentioned to you, our sister company, Wiley Sanders Truck Lines, is our primary logistical provider domestically. They have over 550 trucks that they're operating, and within that fleet of trucks is designated bulk trucks that are used for KW resin only. So that is something we think is a huge benefit to our customers and something that they enjoy. Also, as you know, Scott mentioned, and the guys have touched on a few times, we have a growing business, and it's invaluable to have a relationship across the street with a leading common carrier that can react so quickly, reliably, and on time for our customers who need us. Next. So I hope your takeaway today is that KW is investing in our business. We're excited for the growth and opportunities for PCR. We hope you have seen today we are committed to this business and to being the best supplier to you. Please take note of our address, email, telephone number. You can contact any one of the members you heard speak today. And thank you again for your time. I will turn it over to Pedro for closing statements and/or questions. Thank you again.
Hello again, and we thank you for your time. We hope this has been beneficial and worth your efforts to sign on with us for this webinar. One of the main takeaways that we hope you have is that we all work as a team, and we're dedicated on trying to become a little bit better every day so we can take care of you a little bit better every day. And we always keep in mind and that, as Babe Ruth said, you know, you can't beat a team who never gives up. And that's what we're going to do for all of our customers. And thank you very much for your time. At this point in time, I would like to just acknowledge Nicole Freeman and also all that she's done to help put this webinar together. It takes a lot of work herding everybody up and the electronics and the support people. I also want to recognize the Plastek Group for being selected the Outstanding Processor of the Year. This is an annual award that the Plastics News puts together and conducts and ultimately selects the winner. Last time I checked, there were over 2,000 plastic processors in North America alone, and the Plastek Group was selected as #1. At this point in time, we're through with our perspectives presentation, and now to Nicole and for the conclusion. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Nicole Freeman with Plastek, and I am happy to join you now as we lead into the next and final segment on our agenda today, the Q&A session, and also point out some info for you to take with you. So if you're looking for more informative material for use outside of today's webinar, be sure to go to the handout section of your dashboard where we have provided 3 documents which you can click on to open a new tab before you exit today. Keep those documents open so that you can save and print them after you exit the webinar. I'd like to now get you, our audience, engaged with our expert panel by giving you the opportunity right now to ask some questions on today's topic, HDPE and polypropylene PCR. As the KW team has already described, they are aware that this topic and resource continues to evolve, and therefore I'm sure you're thinking of, if not multiple, at least one question you have right now. So with that said, the KW team has agreed to stay live with us today a bit longer if needed, so that we can provide KW quality answers. So as Clint would say, just start asking, that is. Type it and hit send. While you're using the text box on your dashboard to write in, and as the team joins us again, Scott, Pedro, Clint, Andy, and Megan, on behalf of the Plastek Group, myself, and the audience, I want to thank you, our expert panel, and KW Plastics for your participation today. So let's get started and see what questions we have. Okay. So, one question that we have, okay, quite a few coming in, great. We would love a copy of this webinar to share with our team. So I will let you guys know at the end of the next slide. You can visit the replay by going to plastekgroup.com/Plastek-Academy, and you can access a link to watch this webinar as well as any previous webinar in our series. Okay, now let's get to topic questions with, what is the barrier to incorporating PCR into HDPE beverage, where'd it go? Beverage jugs for water, tea, or milk?
I think the biggest barrier is potential liability for the container manufacturer and the resin company. HDPE is a more porous material than PET. KW has an FDA LNO on high-density polyethylene as well as polypropylene. But today there's enough demand in personal care applications that most, I'm gonna say 99% of those pounds are going into those applications. So I think mechanically it can be done. I think aesthetically it can be done. It's just with a limited amount of supply of material, nobody really wants to take on that liability today.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, I'm just going to go down the list. How are paper labels on containers processed at KW?
We remove the paper label in our wash process. We use a lot of agitation, a lot of heat, some surfactants in that process to break down the paper, and then to take the adhesive off the container and encapsulate that into the water where we can filter it out.
Wonderful. Okay, I know Clint and Andy mentioned and talked about that they review a lot of the regulations that are necessary. A question from the audience is, are the FDA grades obtained only from 100% food packaging waste?
What was the first part of that question, Nicole?
Are the FDA grades obtained only from 100% food packaging waste?
Well, our FDA feedstock primarily comes from items that contain food or were made with virgin resin. So our LNO is pretty simple. It's over strict source control and process. So if you think about it that way, it begins as a food grade item, and we hold that through our process through strict source control and processing the material.
Thank you. What PCR resins have a low odor profile?
Wow. I'll take that one. We try to reduce all the odor within all of our polyethylene and polypropylene portfolio. Again, this is materials that are coming from curbside recycling. And just like all plastic, there is going to be some odor there. It just depends on what it came from, but we try to mitigate that. And from our experience, it is not harmful or offensive. But again, you do need to expect it to be possibly different than a virgin resin.
Thank you, Clint. What are the biggest challenges you have with incoming materials from the MRFs?
The biggest challenges is going to be maintaining quality. Typically, bales have about 20% yield loss associated with them, and that is the residue that was in the container. A little bit of soap is still in there, or a little bit of yogurt is still in there. The paper label, and then any other contaminant that is picked up at the material recovery facility, glass particles, grime, dirt, other containers that were missorted. That would be our biggest challenge.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, I have a couple questions within one statement here. Would you agree that one of the keys to scaling the PCR industry is reliant on the ability of the everyday consumer to be able to contribute in a simple, understandable way? How much time, money, and attention is dedicated by KW Plastics to truly educating the masses on how to contribute recyclable virgin material to the supply chain for growing demand of PCR type products?
Or could you repeat the first part of that?
Sure. Would you agree that one of the keys to scaling the PCR industry is reliant on the ability of the everyday consumer to be able to contribute in a simple, understandable way?
Yes, I mean, the limiting factor for growth of PCR is a participation in curbside recycling. So today, curbside is recycling is quoted as being successful about 27, 28%. So we know that with the existing infrastructure in place, the existing bins, trucks, material recovery facilities, we could double the amount of PCR available in the current infrastructure if we can get more people to place their container in the recycling bin instead of in the trash.
Great, thank you. I know Earth Day is coming up, so we'll be excited to see and educate our communities and how everybody can do their part. So thanks for that reminder, Scott. Do you have a mechanical or chemical recycling process, or is it a mix of both?
We're a mechanical recycler, but we do use some friction and some chemicals to aid in the cleaning of the material.
I think I see a little bit of duplication in some questions here, so I just want to make sure we address something a little different for each one. Let's see. Okay, I heard the word melt flow throughout the presentation. So here's one that asks, do you see HDPE PCR for injection achieve melt flows closer to 20? Not sure if that would be a processing question or not.
Well, our resins all start with what's available in the market. And today for injection grade high density polyethylene, we only offer a 4 melt index. So to get to a 20, there's no good way to bisque break that material or chemically change the makeup of it. But again, it goes back to what's available in the market to be collected, procured, cleaned, and converted into a PCR. Today that comes to us as a 4 melt index.
Thanks, Clint. I have some in regards to the quality and the outcome and what to expect of the material. So combining a couple of ideas and questions about the methods for filtering out contaminants and black specks. how stable are your different grades in terms of contaminant, smell, and color? How stable is the quality of the output material?
Mechanically, our material is extremely stable, much more stable than wide spec material as far as melt flow, density, those type of mechanical properties. Where you see fluctuation in PCR is in the aesthetic quality. We do see some variations in our natural materials in the L, A, and B values. We do a lot of work to homogenize and control that material. Black specks are something that is a little bit a part of PCR, not in a severe way, but we are trying to remove labels that contain glue, right? And then some of those labels are covered with PVC. So just a tiny amount of contamination of either glue or PVC can create a black speck. We have very modern continuous melt filtration systems on all of our extruders that really minimize that problem. Where we really see an issue is when you try to go to maybe 100% PCR in a natural container. If a company does that, then they do have to accept a little more inclusions in that bottle than they're probably not, used to accepting. But when you're running 25, 30, 40% PCR in light colors or natural, we really don't see a detriment to performance or aesthetics in those containers.
All right, I think we'll do 2 or 3 more questions. I see a little bit of variation, and just to recap some information about being in the press and the status of the material and PCR supply and demand. Can 100% PCR containers be recycled again, and does the material break down from it?
They can be recycled again, but typically they're homogenized in a bale that's going to contain a lot of material that has 25% PCR. So if you were to take a container that's 100% PCR and recycle it and recycle it and recycle it and add heat histories to it, then you would have to add antioxidants and some other items to keep those properties from breaking down. But we have enough virgin resin coming into the system that we really don't see any mechanical deterioration in the recycling stream.
And then in regards again to the status and reliability and the desire for it, with the recent downgrade of polypropylene PCR to not recyclable by the SPC, how does KW see the path to promote polypropylene back to recyclable status?
Well, we think that polypropylene got an unfair black eye. I gave this analogy at National Geographic's panel that I sat on. Polypropylene recycling for containers did not start till 2012. We have about a 1.5 or 2% market share. That's a tremendous amount of growth. That's not a 30% market share like we have in high density or PET. But also think about Tesla was also started in around 2012, and they got a 1.5 or 2% market share, and they're touted as the greatest automotive company in the history of the world, and they have the highest market capitalization of any car company. So a lot of it is perspective. The headwinds that polypropylene faced were China putting up their green fence and stopping all the importation of cardboard and plastic. When you think about a material recovery facility, there's 75, 80% cardboard coming into those facilities. So for 2 years, they spent all their available resources correcting their cardboard issue where they could find markets internally or overseas for their existing cardboard. That slowed down propylene. And then we had a market that fell from about 90 cents to 35 cents. So it made it very difficult economically for material recovery facilities to invest in sorters to collect polypropylene. Well, in the last 15 months or so, we've seen the market recover. We've seen material recovery facilities conclude with their investment to correct their paper problem, and now they're adding sorters for polypropylene. So I think we continue to tell our story, we continue to show successes, and then we continue as an industry to invest, and you're going to see that rate climb to where it's no longer considered not recyclable.
Great. We'll look forward to that. And with the audience that we have on, again, we thank you for your time. One last question with the diversity in our attendees today from all around the plastics industry in many different roles. And as you mentioned, all the pieces coming together with the contribution of the suppliers, the processors, the brand owners. Does KW prefer to do business with brand owners or processors?
Well, we get that question a decent amount today because the brand owners have become much more involved in their supply chain decisions. Historically, our customer is the converter. And for the first 30 years of our business, we really only dealt with the converter. We do have relationships that are newer with brand owners today. And, you know, we try to balance the delicate tightrope there of taking care of our existing customers while not ignoring a shift in the market and a potential growth opportunity for our company. So at the end of the day, we're gonna try to be friends with everybody and let that market sort itself out and do the best job we can do to supply good material to the people that need it for their processes.
Very good. Okay, so we are coming up to the top of the hour. And again, we just want to thank everybody for participating today. With this completing our webinar today, I'll leave you with Plastek's contact information that you can also reach out to anyone here for further details, along with our website there to rewatch any of the replays and the information provided today using the link at plastekgroup.com. So as we close, there's one more request that we can ask from you all. For our return viewers, you know what's coming next. And for our newcomers, here's a heads up. As you exit the webinar, you will see a window open for a brief survey. Your completion of this survey is, of course, much appreciated once we get your results. And while you're at it, again, go ahead and check out the upcoming topics for the coming months webinar series. Until then, have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.